Hey guys, Tim Charlo here with Conversations in Bayou Creative, and today we're sitting down with somebody very near and dear to my heart. My first cousin and brother, Harold Batiste, who's the founder of Bespoke Batiste here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the other side. Cheers. Harold, thank you so much for sitting down with us for part two. In case
Welcome.
anybody missed part one, who
Pleasure.
are you and what do you do?
Harold Batiste, as those know and those may not, but I'm a clothier here in the Lafayette area. That just means I specialize in men and women's custom clothing. As I previously stated, that's what I do. That's how I make my living. But my main job is husband to my wife Latoya and father to my son Zion and my daughter Araya.
Yeah, I love those kids.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. They love
Especially
you too.
that little one.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah,
girl.
yeah,
So you grew up, you from Carencro, Louisiana,
yeah, man.
right?
Yep.
Graduate of Carencro High,
Yes, indeed.
2000?
2001.
2001.
Yeah.
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 I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go. They sent me to Westminster.
Oh, it's all
But I'm
good.
not bitter. I'm
It's
not
all
bitter.
good. Yeah, you do well.
So you get out of high school and you start working.
Yes, indeed.
How much of your psychology is dedicated to wanting to do this one day? You're working for Lowe's, I believe, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lowe's in Carencro,
Yep.
working in the appliance department.
Yes,
I never
sir.
forget, because every time I went shopping, they would think I were you, and they would ask me for help. I wasn't,
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about your clothing brand as a 19-year-old?
No, I was not, man. It didn't occupy a lot of space in my mind, right? I was coming out of high school. I had a job before I graduated, which was at Praise Jones.
Forgot about that, yeah.
And then immediately after that, I was just like over school.
Yeah.
I hate that I was in that place, but I was. And I wanted to go to work because I really didn't want to rely on my parents.
Yeah, which is
Much.
fair.
I had relied on them for years, and I had a younger brother and sister that I knew it took a lot for them to provide. And mind you, so in graduating and prior to, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but prior to graduating, I had letters from art institutes,
I didn't know that.
which was Art Institute Houston, Art Institute Phoenix, I believe, in Dallas. They sent me packets and stuff like that and kind of invites to go and visit campus. And so I never even showed them to my parents. I took them and I tucked them under the bed because I understood that college and art school was gonna. So I was thinking about it, but it was like,
It wasn't Bespoke Batiste
No,
thought, it was
not
how
at
do
all. I knew I wanted
propel?
to go for design and different things like that, but I knew I didn't want to ask my parents for the money to do it. I would have much preferred them go and take care of my brother and my sister. And so I go and I work and kind of the main focus, which was in retrospect, I guess was off. But I'm young, I don't know much. I've seen my dad and my grandpa, our parents, they work, and that's kind of the name of the game. And so I went and I did that same thing. Fast forward that, I did 5 or so years at Lowe's.
Yeah.
And between that time, I dropped the Praise Jones job because I got on full time at Lowe's, and then got kind of burnt out on that. I knew there was something different out there for me, and I landed myself in the oil field,
I remember that.
which was
So how long into the oil field stint? Because there were two.
yeah,
There was furlough, then the comeback.
yep.
At
Yeah.
what point did you recognize I have to do something for myself?
Oh man, I realized it early on, bro. So I did like 9.5 years, my first stint, and probably about year 4.
Mm.
Probably about year 4, I was like, yo, there's got to be a better way. I mean, that was a hard life. You understand what I'm saying? I'm driving these big trucks and working 20, 30 hours at a time and so on and so forth. That list goes on. But I realized it very early on that I needed to do something different. There was something out there, and it frustrated me a whole lot. And even in that time, really good friends of mine, Trev and Mikey George. You know them.
I do.
And so they had started a clothing line, and I was excited for them. I'm like, wow, I know I had aspired to do it, but heck, I'm happy for them that they're doing
Absolutely.
it. Not necessarily the avenue I wanted to take in fashion, but they were doing it. And I was kind of, I guess, in the shadows, and I'm not saying this to take credit or anything for what they've done. They're phenomenal. They're very creative. And they kind of asked me to help them out just with some design stuff. They kind of had an idea and they wanted me to just sketch it out on paper. And I took that personal. I was like, wow, you like they believe in
Yep.
me and they trust me with their baby, partially, not fully, but that meant a lot, and I don't think they know it. And I've told them I'm not sure if they understand how much that meant to me, but it meant a lot. And so I took part in that, and it showed me like, wow, like you are creative enough to do this, to the point where I called the Art Institute of Dallas, and I said, hey, I'd like to look at attending fashion design school. Do y'all offer it? Yes, we do offer it. Yada, 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 yada. Can you tell me what I'm gonna learn? I went through a laundry list of things that I expected. And I was like, oh, yes, sir. You can learn all of those things and et cetera, et cetera. And so I was like, well, thank you. I was like, well, look, man, you're welcome to come up and visit campus and all this fun stuff. I'm like, that sounds great. I'm excited. And so before I hung up with the lady, I said, well, can you tell me how much this degree is gonna cost? And she said, it's gonna cost you about $98,000. This is a 4-year degree. You're more than likely to go to work for a major fashion company, Gucci's, Tom Ford's, etc. once you graduate from this school. I said, well, thank you so much. This was an awesome call. we were, I think, expecting Zion. No, we were expecting Zion, or Zion was already born. And I'm like, I have a wife, I just got married, and I have a son, and I'm not gonna have them suffer for what I should have done years ago. I'm not gonna be able to do it, but thank you. I appreciate your time. And then we hung up, and I was just kind of lost and discouraged. And I'm like, how can I do this? But I did not stop sketching.
I wasn't going to ask you this question, but now that I know that story, which I did not know, I have to ask this question.
Go for it.
Do you believe or feel within any capacity that attending an art institute would have made you any better an artist today otherwise?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And so one thing I've learned about life in general, man, is that you don't know where you're gonna end up, and there's some education. You're not gonna go and have coffee, and who knows where that conversation goes, and I learn something from you, or you inspire me, even more importantly, right? Being creative is all about being inspired for me. Whatever sparks my curiosity or my interest can inspire me to whatever degree.
Yeah.
So just being in that technical professional setting where I could learn some of the technical aspects of art, because I did not learn any of the technical aspects of art when I was in school. I fast forwarded through all the lessons. I was just pretty good with the pen and paper.
Yeah.
And so just learning some of the technical aspects of design, and not to say I would adopt them fully, but they were tools I could have had in my toolbox, right, and kind of learned early on.
Yeah.
And be networking. Who knows who I would have gone. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is great, and He brings people into our lives that can help us and catapult us. But He also gives us free will to kind of be in a situation, And so I'm not going to call it a shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it could have aided, to my direction, just in terms of learning and building connections and stuff like that. Really, so I would watch TV to learn about anything outside of Louisiana.
Yeah.
Right?
We didn't travel much as kids.
No. So going to one of these schools and meeting different people and seeing a different part of the world would have also, would have inspired me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's beautiful.
I don't regret it though.
So 5 years ago, you launch in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
You launch a clothing company that requires you to touch people and measure them and do.
Bro.
We'll get into that maybe another day, or maybe even off camera. But I don't imagine, Harold, that when you launched, you were like, there's loads of fabric companies in Lafayette. Nope. I'm going to start my business and do fabric in Lafayette. How did you even find out where to get fabric from, and where did you go to get it?
Oh, bro. Okay, heavy question. So, but it's cool though. It's cool when I think back about it. So prior to 2020 is when this all started.
Right.
Probably 2018. Right? I'm sending emails out. Because I'm not finding it here. And mind you, I've searched, and I send emails out a lot here in the States, and then a lot overseas. India, Spain, Asia, China, everywhere, Italy. and emails are falling on deaf ears. Nobody's responding, and I gave up on that for a while. And then I took that same email list and I started emailing again. And I finally got a few little responses. And the one response I got was from a fashion forum organization, where they offer mentoring and
Oh, wow.
they kind of help you build connections and stuff like that. And with some of the folks I was prior to meeting the organizer of that organization, or the head of that organization, I was talking to some people overseas, and then just via email, and turns out that two of them were going to be there. One was going to help me with sourcing fabrics and finding tailors, and the other was going to help me with shoes, which I wanted to get into, right?
My favorite.
And so I'm like, all right, tell my wife, I'm like, okay, we got to go to New York. She's like, okay, I'm like, hey, these are our expenses. This is what it's going to take for us to do what we got to do. Well, the trip to New York was in January 2020, just before this happened. And so
COVID hit in March, I believe.
Yeah, and so we go to New York, January 2020. I'll never forget, it's around my dad's birthday. And so I missed his first birthday. I missed in years, but I'm like, hey, Pop, I got to do what I got to do. So we go, and even getting out there, I'm overwhelmed, right? Because one of the people that I went to see, I didn't see him, but I'm leaving this forum. I'm walking out, and there's a guy that says, hey, I got what you need. You need to come in here, and you need to come talk to me. It was Bob. I'm
like present day Bob?
Yeah.
Like the Bob that still makes this
does my
Bob?
stuff. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, bro, let me have it. Let me hear what you got to say. I'm lost anyway. I'm ready to go home. And so I go in there. He's like, hey, you can have all of this. I'm like, what can I have? He's like, I'm like, look, man, I don't have anything. I'm starting from scratch. I'm starting from the ground floor. And dude was like, no worries, man, I got you. He's like, let me show you something. And he showed me a bulletproof blazer. That's the first thing he shows me. I'm like, listen, I'm from a real small town in Louisiana. There's
James
nobody
Bond's
that
here.
needs it. Thank you. He's like, no, just calm down. And he brought me into another area of the room. There was fabric everywhere. And so we worked out the business deal, told me what my financial investment would be. And I felt good about it, but I just was unsure, And so I get back to the room. I'm like, okay, when I get home, I'm gonna go do this bank transfer, and I'm gonna send him this money. But right after I left that meeting, I went to another meeting, which is at a different place, and I met Juan, the guy that does our shoes, right? You know him well.
I know Juan well.
And so we formed a pretty good partnership there, and even then I was skeptical. But by the time I got home, I was set up on a platform to do shoe designs, and I had sent a deposit over to Bob, and I told my wife, I looked at her, I said, hey, all I'm waiting on is boxes in the mail. If these fabrics come, and I made a pretty decent investment, I'm like, if these fabrics come, it's over, I'm good. I'll have what I need. And then a few weeks later, we got fabrics. And I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now that I got the fabrics, let's kind of share some designs and see, with this. And I had seen some examples of the work when I was up in New York. But long story short, man, a trip to New York changed everything.
And 5 years later, you're still with Bob and Juan.
Yep.
They've taken care of you.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Man. It's been cool.
All right, so we're gonna set up for a part 3 because we got more. We got a deep dive now. We
got
a deep dive. It's a good cliffhanger there.
No doubt.
Harold, thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm excited, man.
Guys, thank you so much for sitting down with us for part 2 of Conversations with Harold Batiste of Bespoke Batiste. If you missed part 1, by all means, please go and watch it. It's full of fantastic information. Stay tuned for part 3, and to make sure you know when that comes out, do me a favor. I need you to smash that like button, crush that subscribe button, and ring the notification bell. Cheers.